Well, thank you, everyone. Excited to be here. Thank you, Al and Louisa, for a great event. My name's David Hernandez. We got a great panel here today. We got Daniel Harris, Ironside Partners, Barry Bear, Lambert from Southern Sky Aviation, Jacquie Dalton from Sparrow Executive Jets, and Wade Black from Magnifica Air. So we're going to talk about a very controversial topic, and I'll say that this is not the advice or legal recommendations of Vedder Price, just me, myself, chatting with these fine folks. So our topic today is WhatsApp in the sky, or informal sharing of flights. It could be also known as, what the hell are these people thinking? But this topic is proliferating. And there was an article from the Wall Street Journal that came out in July 5th or 9th of this year that talked about what's happening in this industry, and it's a lot of private sharing, private flight sharing, and by the seat. And so in this panel, we're going to talk about why that's problematic or what can be done to avoid it. I think the big thing is if you look at what's going to happen, this is spreading, to use this ugly analogy, COVID. It's spreading like COVID through the industry. And it's going to touch everything and everyone sooner or later. And so hopefully the panelists here will be able to shed some light on this, figure out what we can do to deal with it, and either accommodate alternatives. But if you got any questions, we'd be glad to answer them at the end. And you guys ready? Sure. All right.
Let's go.
So Daniel, I'll start with you. Are you familiar with the sharing, and is it problematic?
I am familiar with the sharing, and I would say it's problematic in that I look at it as a missed or failed opportunity as the industry. The consumer obviously wants it, and we have been unable to provide a solution for the consumer. And because of that, they have gone to WhatsApp groups and other ways to fill that need. So I look at that as either the technology or the solutions that we've provided for our consumers haven't fit their needs, and that's why they've gone to groups and chat groups like this.
Got it. Okay. Bear, you're an operator. What are your thoughts? Aware of it? Is it problematic?
Very aware of it, very problematic. We've seen anything from lost flights to lost management opportunities to where customers, aircraft owners, want to put their aircraft to where they can sell it by the seat to their friends, to their acquaintances, to be able to recover the costs. And as an operator, where that comes from is not being able to do it is, I think we are failing the industry is not having a solution for that, but at the flip side of that, the regulatory side will not allow us to do that.
Got it. Jacquie, same question, and you're a broker. What are you seeing in your industry, and you're familiar with it? I assume I read some of your stuff, so yeah, you're familiar with it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. My philosophy is let the industry go low, we're going to go high. We have an obligation to provide safety and a quality of service. And the problem with ride sharing and seat selling isn't just that it's illegal, it's really degrading the value of ultimately what it takes to run a good flight operation, and we're seeing it consistently. I don't necessarily think that the consumer wants it as much as there are players in the industry who are telling the consumer to want it and creating a problem that they have a solution for as they move it to ride sharing and seat selling. It's illegal. And I think that the big message is that the consumer wants a better flying experience than what typical ride-sharing and seat-selling solutions, which is commercial, provide, which I think sets you up pretty well.
Yeah, same thing, Wade.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much helping prove our whole business case, our whole business model of what Magnifica Air can provide. I know there's a lot of people here in this room that have been in the industry a long time. This ride sharing, seat sharing, this has been an issue for a long time. It's been before WhatsApp. I've been aware of it a long time. It's something that's I've been very uncomfortable with because, I think about the consumer that's out there. They really don't know what they're getting into. I think they're looking for a path of a better solution for travel. And what we're doing is we're going to offer, basically you're going to be able to buy the seat. We're introducing a whole new class of service called private class, where we're creating this ACJ experience, being able to fly on the private side of the terminal and be able to provide a service that nobody else can provide.
One of the big issues, I think, is the risks. Just understanding that this is, let's call it what it is. It's an illegal activity. And trying to convey to people what this means, at least from my perspective, legal perspective, you really have no rights. If something goes wrong, you can't really sue somebody for being involved in illegal activity. And I think a lot of people, if you look at some of these websites, well, even assuming they do have terms and conditions, they always say, well, we're not responsible for that. And I'd like to get your thoughts on, all of you guys. When folks say they're not responsible for it or they're not contributing to this, what do you see the risks and problems with that?
Well, I think the main risk is with illegal charter. So when you are paying for a flight with an operator that is not 135 is the main risk. And for the consumer, the major risk is from an insurance standpoint. So if you are flying on an airplane that is not on a legal 135 certificate, there is an incident, there is no insurance protection for you, your family, your business. So as if you are a wealthy individual and you want to save $2,000 or $5,000 and buy a seat, and you do not know that the airplane you're flying on is 135 and that airplane has an incident, your own insurance policy, the airplane's insurance policy can be void. And you could potentially lose a lot more, you're risking a lot more just to save maybe a few $1,000s. And I think that's the biggest risk when you're looking at these providers and these, seat sellers.
Barry, same question, risks and problematic.
I agree 100% with everything that Daniel said, but to expand upon that is by putting and selling seats into a private jet, we don't have a sterile flight deck. We don't have secure doors, so now they have access to the pilots. So now we're endangering our employees because now how are we vetting these passengers? I know earlier this year, the 12.5 program expanded their vetting for the Part 380 rules for sell by seat, but 135 currently doesn't have that. 121 has the best solution. But how do we protect our employees? But now we've put anywhere between 4 to 8 passengers that don't know each other into a closed environment.
Jacquie, you posted the Wall Street Journal article, I think on your LinkedIn page, and got pummeled. Yeah. One of the, that was an interesting, a lot of the responses. So what's your feedback on that? And could you tell the group some of the responses and your overall thoughts on whether or not the public even cares?
For the record, a lot of people posted the article, but mine just got the most traction and the most activity. And it's definitely a hot topic. I think it's one of the hottest topics in charter right now. And, it got a lot of responses and a lot of reports to the FAA that, people privately and publicly were coming back. I think listen, the best of the industry are here in this room at CJI and know the rules, know the regulations, and do their best to follow them and do follow them. The problem really is that it's not people within this room, within this industry, who know the rules and follow them as we try to move progressively forward to meet more of what the consumer wants. The fact is that the charter marketplace, empty-leg selling, ferry-leg selling, ride-sharing, and seat selling, has the broadest access to a much broader consumer base. We call it market expansion, but the fact is there's phishing, there's fraud, there's scams. If you're on any social media website, you're seeing ride-sharing, seat selling, unrelated to any of us or anybody that we're familiar in the industry with. They're scammers, but they're using actual tail numbers. They're using actual routes that are in the open marketplace. And so we have to set up stronger boundaries and protections, and this is a very competitive space. We're really competitive with each other, but we really need to unite and look at everybody's in a specific sort of lane. How do we come together, unite, continue to keep our independence, but protect the industry overall? Because the charter market has left us pretty wide open, and I think we need some standards and some self-standards. We don't want much more regulation coming in, but.
So Wade, with a 121 business model, are you immune from this type of stuff?
Well, I think, I mean, we purposely, with what we're doing, we decided to go the 121 route just because we're going to meet the highest standards that we can possibly meet within the industry. And that's, first and foremost, we wanted in the public's eye, everyone to know, how we were, what we were doing, all of our procedures, how we were going to operate. I think everything that Jacquie said, I think you were definitely spot on. And, all of us have heard where the FDA is going to crack down on this, and, that really doesn't happen. And the unfortunate part of all of this is they only get involved when something really terrible takes place. And, as we all know, we benefit from, we have the safest form of transportation in the world, and we're lucky about it. I think a lot of us take that for granted. However, things do happen, and it's unfortunate that the FAA is not maybe a little bit more proactive in trying to address and at least get to transparency of this seat sharing out to the public and try to set some standards within the industry.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the whole regulatory thing. So my prior life, well before CJI, was a FAA prosecutor, and I think you can, to be fair, you could shut this stuff down with three things: a motivated POI or FAA inspector that's getting paid. Let's solve that problem first. Two, a couple subpoenas and press releases. And in the press releases, you have to target the users of the product. And there's nothing that scares the hell out of someone more than getting a subpoena. So that's how you stop it. And you get the POIs at these local airports. The busiest routes are north-south, so you put them at Naples, Opa-locka, and every 91 flight, you check. And you ask tough questions. And you also tell FlexJet and NetJets and all the other fractional program operators, if you don't church yourselves up, you're going to get subpoenas as well. And that'll probably end in a matter of a week. Because, like I said, subpoenas, they kind of ruin your day. So that's the way to do it. But in the interim, and since we're not in a perfect world, Daniel, how do we solve it from a regulatory perspective?
From a regulatory perspective, I couldn't answer that really well. I think as an industry, we need to come together and, again, I think it's a product problem. We haven't made it easy enough for the consumer and provided a good enough product. Now we've got new entrants into the market. We've got Aero, JSX a little bit, but those products are helping, but it doesn't seem to be enough. It's not, facilitating the appetite of the consumer. So for me, outside of regulatory, because that's not my expertise, sales and marketing, it's like, what products can I offer, solutions I can offer to customers to make this process simpler, easier to, satiate that appetite of the consumer.
It's a good point. So Bear, on that one, what do you think operators can do from an industry perspective to, one, stamp down the illegal activity, but also increase your product's awareness to accommodate that need?
So early on a panel yesterday, I was listening, and I apologize, I can't remember who was speaking, but they were talking about how there's a lot of information out there where we talk to each other, very bravado, we're the experts, we're the experts. We don't have a lot of communication to the end user, educating them and letting them know what's right. So I think, one, operators have to start holding a higher standard for themselves, but hold that standard out there and don't be afraid for your market to know that you're doing it right. And that it's okay to report to the FAA, because one of the biggest things is nobody's reporting when my buddy has a jet, I'm sorry, I'm not taking your jet. And if you don't report, then the FAA doesn't know there's a problem because they're not in our markets. So once those reports happen, those get reported to Congress, and then Congress can start making efforts to help us. But the regulations are already there. They're just not being enforced because of staffing issues.
Yeah, that's true. Jacquie, what's your thoughts on FAA staffing issues, and how do you deliver a product that meets these needs?
I think we're a little too hard on the FAA, actually. I mean, the rules are there, the regulations are there, the onus is on every single company to follow them and abide by them. In the charter space, again, you have brokers who are not regulated, and then you have operators who do have the onus of finding the regulation. And there's a lot of pressure bearing down on management companies and operators, especially the small ones, who see mass marketing initiatives and messaging and brokers that have, just nothing other than, I was driving in a car service and the guy told me, oh, my buddy's a bartender and he just started selling empty legs. Isn't that your industry? I ran a fleet. I was with an operator, so I'm a little bit different in terms that I really understand aircraft management and flight operations. So I represent clients in the broker space, but I tell every management company and operator that I work with, focus on the operations, run the flight well. I fight really hard to protect the positioning leg, but I do understand that they're being inundated with different sales leads and opportunities, and they're seeing cheap, low cost, free. The fact is costs are rising. We do have parts and supplies issues, we have crewing issues, we have ATC issues that are taking place right now. So again, I think it just comes down to the basics of the industry, follow the rules, don't listen. There's a lot of noise and chaos. The majority of it is not true. Just run good flights, keep good operations, and do business with people who share your values and your ethics, and your business will grow. That's what I'm rooted into.
Got it, thank you. Wade, your business model, I think, is going to put a target on your back from the majors. Yeah. They're going to be nervous, and so there's a Part 380 rewrite in process. I guess it's over now. Well, who knows what's going to happen with this administration? But what are your thoughts on that if you try to, when you enter the market, dealing with the majors and coming after you for this model? Yeah, so from our standpoint is making sure we're meeting all the standards in the industry. So for us, being getting a certification under Part 121 was vital to be able to defend ourselves from that, because we didn't want to have to go through something similar to what JSX is dealing with. From our standpoint, we're looking at this. I think we're going to expand the market. I mean, we're creating a product that doesn't exist right now. And obviously, when we're talking about ride sharing, the public is looking for alternative ways to travel. And I think what we're doing is helping address that need, and we're just going to add to the market and make it better for everybody. Just on that same point, are you guys going to go international? I'd love to see a DC London flight. Oh gosh, yeah. So that's the question everybody asks. I brought in a big consulting firm last year to help us, and that was the other conversational point. I think for us initially, where we've looked at other companies that have tried doing what we're doing in a similar way. When they try that international route, that's kind of the area where they've failed. And from our business plans to focus on domestic markets first, and then we'll do some seasonal international, and then we'll see where it goes. Got it. I'll stand by and watch that one. That'll be a good one. So Dan, you touched upon this a couple of times. Just what do you think the future holds for By the Seat?
I think there's going to be more products like Wade's. I'm hoping the new piece of technology will help drive more either by the seat or flight sharing. There are ways to legally do flight sharing, and there are in the DOT you can. The way to legally do flight sharing is it's called self-aggregation. Right. Is the main way to do it. Where if we all want to go down to back to New York here from Opa-locka, we can connect together, come together, and then purchase an airplane and split that cost. That's a legal way from a legal 135 operator. So I think if there are other ways to make it easier for people to do that with legal 135 operators, that I'm hoping is the future, along with other programs and solutions like that. That's where I see. But I think we touched on Bear touched on a good point that the information just isn't out there for the consumer. So I'm hoping that maybe some really famous aviation podcaster will then kind of step in and provide a little bit more information on the space.
Bear, what do you think? I mean, you're an operator again. What do you tell people if they come and say they want to charter a plane and I've got 5 other buddies that want to hop on with me? Can we go to Vegas?
So we actually handled this with a family, but it was two brothers, and they were known parties. We do not collect payment from multiple parties, but we allowed the two brothers to handle it themselves within their family. We've never had a solution where we have a group of people that are just kind of coming ad hoc to want to go on a trip. But I think that is what it seems like the market is wanting, because 380 and 121 accomplish routes, but they're wanting ad hoc. Hey, I'm gathering up these people to be able to reduce the cost of those ad hoc and create a semi-private flight.
Do you think it's good for operators do you think it will drive more business if they can help pool together a group of people that, of all of them individually, couldn't charter themselves, but now, as a group, can now add more flights and hours on your airplane? Jacquie, please take this after.
I'm actually going to say no. Is it good for revenue generation? Sure. Does it open up to another market segment that may not know how to treat the interior of the aircraft or behave appropriately in that setting? Yes.
So Jacquie, on that point, I think Daniel touched upon it. So how do you deal with a situation where someone comes to you and either does ad hoc or self-aggregation? Well, for the folks who don't know what self-aggregation means, you have one person and you talk, say like, all of us want to go to Vegas, and we all get together after the panel and say, let's all go to Vegas and let's plan our times and dates. That's self-aggregation. There's a lot of gray area there, but that's basically it. Ad hoc is I go to Bear and say, Bear, I'm going to charter a plane to Vegas. I want this time and date, and I'll find other people to help me pay for it. That's crosses the line. And so, Jacquie, what do you deal with, or how do you deal with people that say, look, I'm going to book this flight, I'm going to set this up, and don't worry about it, I'll find other people?
I think most people know not to bring something like that to me. I think recent history in the industry has taught us that the issue with democratizing private aviation is that eventually you run out of other people's airplanes, and I think we're there. There's high demand, but qualifying that demand is really important, and especially because workforce, I mean, there's a lot of burnout on the line in terms of inside salespeople, dispatch teams that are just tired. You know, if you're running a good, solid management company or operation, and you're getting flights in the air, and you're dealing with scheduling, and I mean, Dan posted, did you post the other day about, so I called for a quote, and they're out for lunch.
Yeah,
God
you're gonna get replaced by AI, so the burnout will be gone.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, the other thing for me is that, you know, I question if you have the economics of it. If you have a G5 and you're selling by the seat, it makes me question the quality of the ownership. Should you really be owning a G5? And as much as we want, with the opening day, everybody wants to fly private. I want to fly private. Again, I'm just lasered in on protecting whole aircraft ownership. I think it's important not to lose that segment. I think we should do everything to protect it. You know, a lot of the 121, 380, you know, that the advertising kind of blurs some lines in terms of really impeding on private and 135. I think that needs to stop a little bit. We need to value private aviation as true private aviation and protect it. So that's what I do in my business. So if someone came to me and said, I want to put 15 people together and get a G550 in the air, I would just say, it's not the right fit for me, but.
Run.
Yeah. There's just way too many issues, too much risk. I wouldn't take it, and it's just not business I think is worth doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key when people talk about, you know, I'm just providing a platform for people to connect. You know, in legal terms, that's called conspiracy. When you have two parties getting together and trying to form, whether it's, you know, lack of a better word, you know, just a legal activity, that's called a conspiracy. And so you can't put your head in the sand, you can't facilitate these type of things and expect there's no ramifications. Because at a minimum, you're gonna get hit with a subpoena, and you're gonna have to deal with it from a legal perspective. And you may not, in the end, get significant amount of trouble, but you're gonna pay a lot of legal fees. And again, the press release does a lot more damage. I mean, the government knows that. Those are discussions we always had. Are we gonna hit them with the press release? Absolutely. Or nah, they don't deserve it, because that'll cause a lot of damage. So those are the things to think about when you're dealing with this stuff. And before we go to questions, Wade, any last thoughts on what Magnifica is gonna look like, and to the extent you can talk about it, and the timeline?
No, so yeah, I mean, we're excited about bringing this new product to market. Where we are in the process, just for everybody, to know is we've started the certification with the FAA. We're about a year out where we'll be fully certified. For us, we have working through having our first 2 aircraft being delivered next month.
So they're all new, big planes.
Yeah, so our whole model is new aircraft, Airbus 321 Neos and 22300s. And we have an agreement with Comlex to transform these airplanes into ACJs. So we're excited to.
And no tariffs, right?
And no tariffs, yeah. Yeah, we did run into a situation on a tariff issue, but fortunately, we kind of passed on those airplanes. So.
Got it. Great, great. So I'm going to answer some of these questions. We have a ton of them here. So, which one?
Speed limit one.
Yeah, the
That's a
top
good
one.
Okay, go ahead. Well, you can read it better than I can.
Speed limits would never be followed if there weren't cops along the highway. Will anything really change until the FAA decides to get involved?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, Eves did an article, and I was talking to him, but he actually talked to the there you are, he's back there, and he talked to the FAA, and the FAA's position is, again, as Jackie said, we're not here to beat up on the FAA. They just have limited resources that are reactionary. I mean, when you see something that happened, God forbid, in Kentucky with UPS, that's their focus. Air safety. When you see something drastic, and again, our thoughts go out to those folks, that's what the FAA's primary focus is, to avoid those type of things. So when they hear things about WhatsApp and secret group chats, they have limited resources. They're not, they may seem like they're everywhere. They have limited resources. Again, when I was there, I had 400 or 500 cases at one time. I was just one person. And I had young kids, I had dogs, so I had other priorities. So, but they're limited resources, and they are going to do as much as they possibly can based on their resources and the obligations that they currently have. But it's going to happen.
I think the question is, it's probably good for Bear, how unsafe is the illegal, 134 or illegal charters? How unsafe are they? How much risk is there for the consumer?
Depending on how the operation itself is ran, there's no one auditing the maintenance. There's no one auditing the pilot training. I can think of a couple operators right now that are actually performing this, that they literally hire pilots from the flight school to fly as a safety pilot. So they don't have dual-typed crew. They do not have commercial insurance. Most of them are flying around with $10 million liability, if that. And they're getting a lot of their maintenance completed through the fence mechanics. They're not going to 145 repair stations. The documentation is poor on the maintenance. One of them that we actually took over the maintenance for was being maintained by a maintenance manual that was 15 years out of date. So I think you can kind of expand upon that.
Yeah, it certainly matters, the difference of regulatory compliance. And if any of this is happening on a 91 operation, it's wrong. It's just that simple. If this isn't on a 135 to do it illegally, you got problems. And even 135s have issues. Next question. How should the industry respond to illegal charter activity? And what roles should operators, digital platforms, and regulators play? It's kind of touched on. Jackie, why don't you handle that one?
I'm a big proponent of self-regulating. We know the rules. We know how to play them. Again, better boundaries. We internally, especially in the charter space, we know who the bad players are, but they bring business, and it's hard to resist the trip. But until we start internally as an operator, no matter how much you want that charter revenue and that activity, you just have to start, we have to start correcting. It's really out of balance. Sales is, there's always a gap between selling and operations. I think it's more extreme than it's ever been because of the digital platforms and a lot of the market expansion that's taking place, and a sense to, just sell, and keep these airplanes flying. I think that we need to, again, recognize amongst each other who the good players are, collaborate, join forces, maintain independence, and then just start collectively pushing out some of the bad players. And no matter what kind of a trip they bring to the table, just don't do it. It's too much of a risk.
Got it. And Wade, I guess the question I have for you along those same lines, how are you going to market your product? Direct to customer? Are you going to use brokers?
No, we're we're going to do both. So broker communities can be vital for a business model. Not only are we going to sell direct to the customer, but part of our business plan is to do a lot of charters. Our product is really about the experience. It's about the journey. And so some things that we're going to add on are some over-the-top events, access to things that you normally won't get access to that we feel like the broker community can help us put these things together. So we're going to do both.
Got it, thank you. And this next question is kind of a controversial one, but what the heck. No barriers to entry for becoming a charter broker. Do you think this lack of regulation contributes to the challenges in the market today? Well, there actually are regulations, 295, but I'll let Daniel and Jacquie take that one.
Well, I think they always say the requirements you need to be a charter broker are sunglasses and a website, and that's it. So, yeah. I think there should be, there's nothing. It's a joke. There should be something. I mean.
Well, there's 295.
295.
There is 295. How many, anyone can recite the 295 regulations? No, yeah, the one lawyer in here can't, so I think.
Google it.
Yeah.
I'll be posting them on LinkedIn later.
There is, but I'm probably not the one to answer it. I do think, I mean, if you sell real estate, if you cut hair, you need some type of training. I don't know what that is, but I do think there should be something there that will, you know, require something, sort out the bad players. We need a way also, and it's probably like Jacquie said, self-regulation, to try and push and remove the bad players out. We don't really have any functions to do that. So yes, there should be. I can't tell you what they are, and I'm not really confident that we will figure it out and do that.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. Jacquie, what are your thoughts? Self-regulation.
Again, I'll come back to we all know who's good, we all know who's not good. I'll give a real life experience. Platinum rated operator, ran a flight. I'm big on obviously protecting positioning legs. I think they're a function of safety. I think they're in the crew's best interest. There are all kinds of things that come into play with that. I'm completely against the mass marketing of ferry legs and empty leg selling, which is driving a much broader, unqualified broker. I would say even, you couldn't even, they're not even brokers at this point, right? So there was always a lack of licensing or standards in the broker community, and we've talked about it for a long time. It's even worse now. So we are, I believe, getting to a point where we have to start to have some sort of, I'm not going to say the word, but standards on the broker side. But coming back around to the real, like, you know, I run a good flight. I'm known in the industry. We know who runs a good flight and who knows the rules. And, you know, and then my positioning leg got picked off, and some broker on some platform was able to buy it, and the operator didn't even know who the person was, but they sold it. They thought it looked good. They busted duty, and they caused a 2-hour delay for my client. You know, my client's a 7X owner. He's, you know, I'm selling him on the 135 marketplace, an operator community and integrity to support that segment of the business. And at the same time, that segment of the business is taking my trip, and then basically, you know, we're hurting ourselves at this point. So I think we do have to be more protective.
I think in the charter community, I think we do know, at least from the operator side, you know the people that you would never let fly on a trip without prepayment, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's plenty of people that you know, like, oh, I wouldn't trust this person with credit, but you're gonna take his money as long as he prepays ahead of time. So we do know who the bad players are, but I don't know if I want to call it selfish, but we want that flight, we want that revenue, so we're gonna take it. I don't know if it's financially strong enough or just morally strong enough to not work with these people.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It dovetails into the next question here. So when you hear the word, or the term 380, that's public charters, there are protections in place that you typically don't see that by the seats, and this is the, you know, the public charter route, where you have to file a bond. There's specific payment procedures. You don't get paid until the charter's over, and you have to file stuff with the Department of Transportation each time. So there are protections in place, you just don't see them. Next question, is the problem that gray charter feels like a victimless crime? Is it's perceived to be a parking violation or a speeding violation? I got my thoughts on that, but here's the thing, when it's an illegal activity, you don't know if something goes wrong. No one's going to broadcast on LinkedIn, oh, gee, I just got cheated out of $20 million or $20,000 on this flight, or, you know, there was dogs on these flight, now I'm sick because I've got allergies and stuff like that. All of these things that we've talked about, but here on the panel, it's real. It's happening right now, and we just don't know it unless someone tells us. And really, people don't feel comfortable saying they've been duped, right? You know, no one broadcasts, hey, I've just been pig butchered. You know, that type of, they don't do it. But your thoughts on that, guys, panel? Daniel?
It's probably a better one for Bear here. What do you think?
You know, I can see where people would see it's a victimless crime. I look at it as a lot of consumer protection, not only for the client who's chartering the aircraft, but also the aircraft owner.
Yeah.
Is the airplane being managed properly? And then flip side to it is selfishly, we're in the industry. We're certificated to be able to do charter. We have gone through the process. We uphold our standards that do cost more. We follow the regulations where the FAA can determine our middle managers. And so if there's a victim here, it's actually legal charter because they're being held to a standard that the FAA does police, but they don't police the gray charter because of the 91 activity.
Yeah. Talk about the impact on pilots or potential if they get caught in illegal activity.
If a pilot gets caught in illegal activity, they can lose their license. You know, I know one that was prosecuted, spent 2 years fighting for his license off of one flight that he wasn't even aware that happened, because that does happen. But yeah, they can definitely lose their license and lose their career.
Yeah, and remember, the standard is what you can prove and what you know. And the FAA goes out with a letter of investigation. That's just what they know. It's not whether they can prove it or not. And once you get that, as Barry said, you're probably, if it's significant, you're in a 2-year quagmire of, you know, honey, I don't know if we're going to be able to afford Christmas. So it's awful, and it's not something that people should take lightly, particularly pilots. Do we have time for one more question, or any from the audience? No?
What about how do WhatsApp version 2.0 apps like Eye in the Sky operate legally?
So that's interesting, and I won't speak to any, I won't speak to any specific apps, or I do represent one, and they're doing it correctly. But here's the problem. I've seen, looking at other sites, that you look at the terms and conditions and it says everything it's supposed to say because they copy and paste from everybody else. But when you look at the website and you see, you know, bring your flights here, owners and operators, come here and you can do this. We generally, I got it here. Terms of service. Hosts must acknowledge and accept our terms and conditions, privacy policy, legal pages confirming that they are in operation control of all flights they post and are fully compliant with FAA regulations, Part 135, 91, or other. You know, as an enforcement person, you're like, Part 91, why is that even in there? That shouldn't even be in there.
Yeah.
We generally operate under Part 135. Generally.
Really?
That's scary.
I mean, serious, generally. I mean, that's you're creating your own gray area. Yeah. And, you know, if a motivated FAA enforcement attorney looks at that and they're going to say, send them an LOI. Let's see what generally means. You know, and so those are the things that words matter. And so the public doesn't necessarily get it when you enter into these type of arrangements. And I think you guys are the front lines, at least initially, on identifying and stopping this stuff. Because if somebody doesn't, it's going to proliferate.
Yeah, I mean, if the FAA doesn't have the capability or motivation to do it, I think maybe we look at NBAA. We give them lots of money. They've spent over $70 million in lobbying for us. They have some power. They have some money. Maybe it's those, or we need to come together as an industry. If we really or truly want to stop something like this, let's put our money where our mouth is and come together, put money towards to policing it and ending it. But that probably won't happen.
Yeah, but again, to be fair, the FAA has done, and I was involved with these with Dave Norton going around the country, these SEAT visits, and telling people what are the risks of illegal charter. We've been to North Carolina, Alabama, I mean, Indiana, all over the country talking about this stuff. And the biggest problem is people love it. You know, it's as long as you don't squelch the demand, it's going to proliferate. And I guess now, just reading the background on this, the demand is probably 5 or 6 times what the capabilities are right now. Wow. So, any final thoughts? I see we got the big red overtime.
I see, if you take what you were reading on those terms and conditions, you take this question right here, you look at dry leasing, everything puts the responsibility and the liability back on the user. And that's what charter does. It takes the liability off of the actual user.
Yeah.
And so when you're comparing taxi, Uber, you know, you're not responsible if that Uber gets in a wreck, but if you dry lease an airplane or you accept the responsibility, you are legally responsible to the FAA to make sure that you're compliant in all aspects of the operation of the flight.
Right.
And I didn't hear you mention truth in leasing in there.
Yeah, so because it's 91, we're not supposed to be doing truth in leasing. I don't know why is anybody truth in leasing in this stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, we need to try to educate the consumer better. I think we do a poor job of doing that. I think we need to tell more stories and educate the consumer a little bit better than what we're doing right now.
Got it. Jackie?
I think we need to keep in mind that the primary customer is the aircraft owner, not the charter client, and that protecting the aircraft owner, having your certificate, running a good operation, building a good culture, staying safe is always primary, no matter how noisy the charter space gets.
All right. Wade?
Yeah, I was going to add that, you know, everybody here in this room, you're here because you're doing things the right way. And people we're talking about are the ones that aren't here. And I think, you know, getting to Daniel's point, I think we as an industry need to do a better job of really setting the standards and help kind of educating the public to what's right and what's not and what's wrong.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, audience, for being here. Appreciate it.